Jump Force and J-Stars are very similar games. They're both crossover arena fighting games consisting of characters from Shonen Jump's anime and manga properties. They've also both been hit with their fair share of criticism, albeit Jump Force receiving the shorter end of the stick. However, does Jump Force really deserve the worst criticism, or is J-Stars the lesser of the two Shonen Jump crossover games? To find out once and for all which game is better, I'm going to compare Jump Force and J-Stars in 5 different categories: gameplay, presentation, characters, story mode, and replayability, awarding a point to whichever game wins each category. The game with the most points at the end will win the title of not the worst Shonen Jump crossover game. I can't say the best Shonen Jump crossover game because Jump Ultimate and Superstars both exist. The most important part of any game is the gameplay. As Reggie Nintendo once said, if it's not fun, why bother? Despite being from the same genre, Jump Force and J-Stars play wildly differently. They're both 3D arena fighters, but Jump Force is more similar to games like Naruto Storm, where the arenas are smaller and empty, and the camera is fixed behind one fighter. In J-Stars, the arenas are much larger, featuring destructible environments. It also has free camera controls to compensate for the wider arenas. When we solely look at these differences in arena size and camera controls, I prefer Jump Force's choices. Jump Force constantly keeps you in the action, ensuring no time is wasted in a match. On the other hand, in a J-Stars match, you'll waste so much time traveling across the arena and wrestling with the camera controls so that you don't lose sight of your opponents. This complaint also leads into the second part of the gameplay, the controls, which don't feel very good in J-Stars. The best word to describe J-Stars controls is clunky. The movement is incredibly stiff, it's hard to control, and generally slow. The combat is the same way, mainly repeating the same basic combos over and over. And Jump Force is similar in that regard. Jump Force's combat is quicker paced, but it's also just as simple. You mainly just spam the same button over and over, occasionally mixing in special attacks. Both of these games are similarly simplistic, relying on mainly button mashing with the occasional special attack here and there. However, and this may be a controversial decision, but I'm going to give Jump Force the win for gameplay. There's very little room for experimentation in both of these games, so I'm going to give the point to the game that's quicker and more fast-paced. J-Stars just wastes too much time running across the arena, and its subpar camera controls are very annoying to deal with. Despite both games being based off of Shonen Jump anime and manga, they both opt for drastically different art styles. And for this category, I'm going to specifically focus on the art style and not the graphics quality because Jump Force originally released on PS4, whereas J-Stars is a PS3 game ported over to the PS4. It just wouldn't be fair. J-Stars has the perfect art style for an anime game with cel-shaded graphics, vibrant colors, and expressive animations. Oh, they abandoned that art style from the opening movie in favor of an objectively worse art style in-game. Well, it's still better than Jump Force's. Like I said, J-Star's opening movie has the perfect art style that properly captures the look and style of a shonen anime. Of course, they didn't abandon it in the real game in favor of more realistic coloring and shading, but it still retains the essence of the opening movie. Characters still look like anime characters and are fairly expressive throughout. Jump Force leans even harder into the realistic style, with characters that look nothing like their anime counterparts. The shading is even more realistic, and the coloring is even more muted and dull. The characters look like real, regular people cosplaying the characters rather than actual anime characters themselves, with most of them being very unexpressive, barely resembling the more expressive anime and manga counterparts. It's almost as if they're trying to make the game resemble a Marvel movie rather than an anime. Ignoring the graphical quality, J-Star's art style is just much more faithful to the source material than Jump Force's is. Even though it abandons its art style from the opening movie, it's still much more faithful to Shonen Jump than Jump Force's. The main appeal of each game is being a celebration of the history of Shonen Jump manga and anime, so one of the most important parts of doing that is having a character roster that spans many different eras and genres of manga, and this category isn't even close. Jump Force has a total of 57 playable characters, including DLC, whereas J-Stars only has 39 different playable characters. Despite the difference of 18 characters, J-Stars has a wider variety of characters. Jump Force's roster covers 16 different series, and J-Stars covers 24, 8 more series. Jump Force's roster generally consists of mainstream battle shonen, with Bleach, Dragon Ball, Hunter x Hunter, My Hero Academia, Naruto, and One Piece all having at least 4 or more characters, and Bleach, Naruto, Dragon Ball, and One Piece all having 7 characters each. For comparison, the series in J-Stars with the most characters is One Piece, with only 4 characters. Because of Jump Force favoring a select few series, they're missing a more varied roster, with many classic shonen series being omitted entirely. J-Stars, on the other hand, keeps each series' represented characters minimal in order to have a more diverse roster, giving it the opportunity to include classic titles like Dr. Slump, and even genres outside of battle shonen, like comedy and sports. Giving J-Stars an even wider lead, it also includes support characters, including characters from series not already represented, bringing the amount of represented series from 24 up to 39. This also gives more series a chance to show up, including ones that may not work with a playable fighting character, such as Hinata from Haikyuu. And, to give J-Stars an even bigger boost, the character movesets themselves are much more unique. In Jump Force, most characters' movesets will boil down to a dash attack, a ranged attack, and a counter attack. Whereas in J-Stars, moves are much more unique and feature a larger variety of different moves, such as giving Naruto shadow clones. The winner here is J-Stars for one simple word: variety, both in terms of character selection and character movesets. The story modes of both games aren't very good, but there's still a clear winner here. The story of Jump Force is that anime characters have come to the real world to combat a villain who has assembled shonen's worst villains to take over the real world. You play as your own original character, who has acquired powers and joined the Jump Force, a league of anime heroes whose mission it is to stop the villains and save the world. Pretty generic stuff here. The story of J-Stars is that there's a jump battle tournament organized by the god of the jump world where fighters can enter with the winner getting one wish granted. However, it's eventually revealed that the true purpose of the tournament is to gather strong fighters to defeat the Dark Phantoms. Pretty generic stuff here. I'd put the plot and writing of each story in the same tier, but J-Star's story mode offers more fan service and gameplay variety. I appreciate the inclusion of a created character in Jump Force, but the options are quite limited. On top of that, the story is structured in such a repetitive way that it gets boring quickly. It consists of the same gameplay loop of accepting a mission in the lobby, watching a cutscene, having a normal match, and then watching another cutscene. That's it for the entire game. Now, it would be tolerable if the cutscenes were anything worthwhile, but they aren't. The animation is terrible, with characters just standing around or slowly moving. Their facial expressions never change, looking like they're constipated all the time. And the writing is so lame that it's not even fun to watch the characters' interactions. J-Stars, on the other hand, has a more interesting gameplay structure, as well as better character interactions. The story is split into 4 different arcs, each following a different team of characters. The cutscenes are pretty lame with just PNGs on screen, but the character writing is a bit more interesting. But in-game, there are actual character interactions. For example, there are unique messages at the start of each match, depending on who you're playing as. This extends even past the story mode into free battles and other modes too. The gameplay is also structured differently, with an overworld map to traverse across using a ship. You can upgrade your ship, as well as come across enemy ships on your way to different story checkpoints, with each encounter starting a new match. While the stories of each game may be equally generic, the gameplay structure is a lot more interesting in J-Stars, whereas Jump Force gets very repetitive very quickly. Our final category is replayability, and the score is saying that J-Stars has already won with no chance for Jump Force to win, so to keep things interesting, let's say that's double or nothing. Replayability is an important part of any game. How much content is available, and how long can you play for before you've discovered everything. Jump Force doesn't really have specific game modes, as everything is accessible through the hub world. Here you can buy clothes and abilities for your character, participate in story missions, free battles, and online battles. So, you can basically either spend your time buying stuff, or just playing regular matches. In J-Stars, there's a dedicated menu where you can select different modes. You can also unlock different unlockables, including playable characters, support characters, cards, and story mode upgrades. In terms of game modes, there's Story Mode, Victory Road, Arcade, Free Battle, and Online Battle. Victory Road is a pseudo-arcade mode where you can fight different matches to progress across the Victory Road. Arcade Mode is your standard arcade mode, fighting a series of different battles. The cards can be used to create different decks that can have different effects and upgrades, giving you a level of customization. I have to give this one to J-Stars. It just has objectively more game modes, and there's more variety of things to do. I do appreciate Jump Force's customization options, but it's not enough to edge out J-Stars. In the end, J-Stars clearly won with a score of 4-1. Despite gameplay being one of the most important factors of any game, I don't think it's as important in this comparison. Both games aren't meant to be deep fighting games, so the enjoyment you're going to get out of these games is more so derived from the novelty of having all of your favorite Shonen Jump characters together. And in that regard, it's a no-brainer. J-Star's art style is more reminiscent of the source material, it has a wider variety of characters, it has more unique character interactions, and it has more content to explore. I do think that Jump Force handles better when it comes to being a celebration of Shonen Jump. it fails in all categories. So what's the grand takeaway in this? Jump Force sucks. That's it.